Aspen Ridge, New Jersey. Coon hunters have stumbled on a second cylinder similar to the first, embedded in the Great Swamp 20 miles south of Morristown. Army field pieces are proceeding from Newark to blow up the second invading unit before the cylinder can be opened and the fighting machine rigged. They are taking up a position in the foothills of Watchung Mountain. Another bulletin from Langham Field, Virginia. Scouting planes report enemy machines now 3 in number, increasing speed northward, kicking over houses and trees in their evident haste to form a conjunction with their allies south of Morristown. Machines also sighted by telephone operator east of Middlesex within 10 miles of Plainfield. Here's a bulletin from Winston-Field, Long Island. A fleet of Army bombers carrying heavy explosives flying north in pursuit of enemy. Scouting planes act as guides. They keep the speeding enemy in sight.
The night that is remembered for the transmission of a radio broadcast that terrorized millions of Americans, be it intentional or otherwise, was October 30th, 1938. I wasn't a human persona at the time. It would not be far-fetched to characterize my identity in extremist terms as a single brown alien lying in wait for the most propitious moment to invade the world. It would transpire that with the passage of 75 days following the big war of the world's scare, I would be delivered at the Linstead Public Hospital in St. Thomas, Yvail. My reception would be celebrated with thankfulness. Tremendous joy would attend my nativity. Reception of information by means of electromagnetic waves about 10 to 80 meters, 33 to 262 feet in length, having frequencies of approximately 29.7 to 3.50 megahertz, was already in vogue in North America before 1939, with the establishment of worldwide shortwave communications. But 39 was the year in which the radio address by Neville Chamberlain, the UK Prime Minister, would use these very waves to declare World War II. Now may God bless you all, and may he defend the right, for it is evil things that we shall be fighting against, brute force, bad faith, injustice, oppression and persecution. And against them, I am certain, the right will prevail. The foregoing introduction is intended to provide the contextual framework for my tale skewed from an in utero perspective. October 38 was in the season of Halloween. Across the Atlantic, school kids in England were being cautioned to pack gas masks with their lunch boxes. Further away on the continent of Europe, Hitler's aggressiveness was generating qualms about living under that dispensation. On our side of the pond, American people were blissfully evaluating the efficacy of the paper press against the power of radio, the electronic media, as an influence on our way of thinking. Democratic principles of equality of opportunity, upon which the constitution of this, the greatest nation on earth, were being pursued. The North Atlantic was on the brink of World War II, and the new heroes on air were just coming into their own. One such icon, who would excel as a future exponent of the art of aerial communication, was Orson Welles, at the ripe old age of 23. He was that evening presenting on CBS, like you and I watch the Grammys, a Halloween episode of the radio series The Mercury Theatre on the Air, performed live. It was 8 p.m. on Sunday, October 30th. The episode lingers in infamy for inciting a panic, though the scale of scariness is disputed, as the program had relatively few listeners. The first few bulletins interrupted a program of live music and are relatively calm reports of unusual explosions on Mars, followed by a seemingly unrelated report of an unknown object falling on a farm in nearby New Jersey. Or was it probably at the Hudson Jar in New York City? The crisis escalated dramatically when a correspondent reported seeing creatures emerging from what is evidently an alien vessel, with multiple stairways from which aliens in armor emerged. Dramatically, when local officials approached the aliens waving a white flag of truce, These monsters from space responded by using heat ray guns, which caused those surrendering to evaporate into nothingness. And then the audio feed goes dead. That portion of the episode climaxes with a detailed report, beginning with the correspondent describing citizens fleeing in panic from giant war machines that are simultaneously releasing clouds of poison smoke. When I reviewed this occurrence with you in 2019, I offered an idea borrowed from an object I saw en passant online, but never stopped to read about it, and did not discover the degree to which it may have been subject to copyright. Well, on the day before Christmas past last year, 2023, while I was spending time with my son and his wife Georgia in New York, he took us on a special treat to the Hudson Yards and the skyscraping attraction permanently known as the Edge. To my utter amazement and surprise, on the entrance thereto stood the very object of my admiration at a glance in 2019. I could not believe my eyes. The structure is TKA Vessel, which apparently means temporarily known as the Vessel, designed by Thomas Heatherwick. The elaborate eye-catching honeycomb-like structure rises 16 stories and consists of 154 flights of stairs, apparently to accommodate thousands of aliens who met their Waterloo when real massive beehives turned their venom upon invading species, biting and stinging them to death. But there is a touch of suicide in the interest of saving our nation. It was the ultimate sacrifice, and we have got honeybees to thank for how the miraculously it was in which we dodged the bullet of an annihilating incursion. We can trace our freedoms today to that Monday in 1938. Modern science believes I must have experienced the vibes of it, although I was not yet born to actually witness it. To be able to touch and see the vessel standing out like a nest for bees must have confused our Apis warriors. Tragically, it was completed in 2019 and has been there ever since, but several suicides have managed to make the attraction close down. In a science fiction version of the tale, the vessel would have been the giant spacecraft used to transport from space the invading aliens, who would have been attacked by multiple hives of millions, wreaking a devastating defeat upon the enemy. Another area for investigation is that the War of the Worlds broadcast was dramatic theatre for sure, but for others, it was an example of orchestrated misinformation. A small percent of the population being confused about War of the Worlds was one thing, said one observer, and it is quite another when many in the population believe the big lie that the 2020 election was stolen. Statement. Tell them that judges across the nation have thrown Trump's lies out. And yet, it does not matter. They are already hoodwinked. You end up with so many Americans believing what seems from the outset to be absolutely insane conspiracy theories. The Hysteria report expressed it thus. The most frightened, even panicked people seem to have been the ones who heard about the invasion from people they trusted, whether or not they heard any of the show itself. A terrifying reality is that the majority of Americans feel that social networking websites and government officials are responsible for policing information. The truth is that we are all responsible for verifying our own information. When a survivor, played by Orson Welles himself, speaks about the aftermath of the invasion and the ongoing occupation of Earth, Dorothy Thompson of the New York Tribune declared the invasion of Martians one of the most fascinating and important events of all time. There is no shortage of conspiratorial imagination in our nation. Others detailed how a flying saucer contraption struck, no doubt the vessel at the speed of light, with the force of a meteor, and burrowed a gigantic hole into the fields of the farm, presumably about the size of the forlorn, unutilized vessel. Aliens attired in discolored metal sheaths shot rays and flames that consumed local personnel and equipment of the National Security Forces, dispatched to protect citizens. Live reports described the dismemberment of those brave souls and their fiery deaths. In a sonorous intonation, at the most effective decibels for the human ear, and with a deliberate diction as prescient as the Delphic oracle, the character of the moment, Orson Welles, spoke. We all know that in the early years of the century, the world was being watched by an alien intelligence greater than our own. I observed what really happened, although I could not have standing as a 100% whole human witness in a court of law, given my questionable in utero status. As I've made it known, one of the most inspirational farming projects we enjoyed in Bog Walk, Jamaica, was the buzzing business of beekeeping. Beginning with a small outlay for a dozen colonies, we expanded exponentially with the right attitude and basic equipment. It's a venture in which nature itself contributes more than in any other small farming enterprise. For the bees do all the work, and if you are careful and understand that the carbon monoxide you exhale is what infuriates the bees, being stung seriously can be avoided. Humans who are careless or ignorant of the day-to-day do's and don'ts of beekeeping should probably not tempt fate. What stopped the invasion from succeeding was the honeybees from the plentiful hives across the landscapes of New Jersey and New York, whose intrepid workers, humanoid and apis, Hymenoptera, were inflamed by the aliens' dark exterior and their effusive carbon dioxide emissions. They stung the aliens and left their stingers in their exposed limbs. Burrowing into crevices of their armored uniforms, the bees struck that last sacrificial blow for humanity. In New York and New Jersey, the honeybee population is crucial. On the rooftop at One Brand Park, for example, are 500,000 honeybees. They have been tenants at the Durst Organization property for over a decade. The bees will do what they have been doing for the last 100 years. 100 million years, says one beekeeper. Save the birds and the bees from pollution via insecticides, say another. However, bees will leave their stingers in your skin after contact, and unfortunately they die. Fortunately, I do not have to consider such complicated steroidal subjects, which are way above my pay grade in any case. As is my wont, after the 14th of January 1939, and 8.5 decades, I intend to continue to mind my own bee's nest.
Here you are. What's the matter? Where are you?
I'm speaking from the roof of Broadcasting Building. I'm speaking from the roof of Broadcasting Building, New York City. The bells you hear are ringing to warn the people to evacuate the city as Martians approach. Estimated in the last 2 hours, 3 million people have moved out along the roads to the north. Hutchison River Parkway is still kept open for motor traffic. The Floyd bridges to Long Island hopelessly jammed. All communication with Jersey Shore closed 10 minutes ago. No more defenses are...